Any questions?
How
much of this is about fighting the stigma in the community? I think judges and lawyers know that drug users aren't bad people. How much is this about getting that message out to the community?
This is so important. We know that as 26,000 people are arrested every year in Victoria for using or possessing a small amount of drugs. And the stigma around that is fatal. You know, it prevents people from seeking help. It prevents people from speaking to their GP. And I was so pleased to hear this morning that the Royal College of GPs has come out in support of this legislation because they understand it will address that stigma. It will assist people to get treatment, to get help, and to get the help that they need.
Do you know how long it took with alcohol and that reform to happen around? Do you think that this can happen sooner with drugs?
This has to happen sooner. This is something that we all agree on. It's hard to find someone who disagrees with this policy, except for possibly in this place. But outside in the real world, everybody understands that treating drug use as a health issue is by far the most successful model. So I would hope that we will see this change. And it really reflects the diversion that we're already doing, the discretionary diversion that we're already doing. The police understand this. This is just going to mean that there is equality in that diversion, that everyone gets that opportunity to seek treatment, that everyone gets that opportunity to have an intervention in their life that could change their life.
Fiona, if this is not back in Parliament as expected, what's the next step? Could you refer this to an independent body like, say, the Australian Law Reform Commission?
I think if the Victorian Law Reform Commission was to look at this, it would be a very short and sharp report, because the evidence, the research is all there. We know that this is the right path. Now, I hope, and we've been having fruitful conversations, I hope that when this bill is finally debated in the House, that we will actually see positive steps towards ensuring that anyone who needs help is not sent to prison, but they're sent to treatment.
Could other bits of legislation be contingent on support for this legislation?
Look, there's no reason in some ways why we couldn't do this without legislation. We could just say to police, there is no discretion in diversion. If you catch someone who's using drugs or has a small quantity of drugs, then you issue them with a treatment or education notice. You issue them with a health intervention. We could do that. But this legislation really establishes that that is the policy of this community and this state.
Do you accept that there may be instances where the police do need discretion to charge people? It's the other side of the argument as well, that it's not always completely sort of clear cut in these matters.
If someone is committing another crime other than using drugs, well then the police should take action, and they do. But what we know now is that 26,000 people every year are arrested just for using or possessing a small amount of drugs. No other crime, just that.
Fiona, you mentioned some people use drugs, have no problem with using drugs. What would happen to those sorts of users under your
Under this, we would see education. We would see possibly an early intervention, because some people may think that they are fine using drugs recreationally, they have no problem, it's a weekend thing, but in actual fact, it can turn into a problem. So this provides that early intervention, it provides education.
Are you confident in the flow on of this, in terms of the services that people would then be converting to? Do we have capacity there? We often talk about anything that's related to mental health or support like this is overrun with demand.
We certainly need to build up our AOD service, and I think probably Paul has some pretty good numbers on that. All right.
No, she tricked me here, no. Look, there is, through the Royal Commission, we've seen further investment, and we've seen doubling of the beds in Victoria, but it starts from a very low base. We need to continue to build that, and we also need to increase the amount of detox beds in communities so we can get people in for rapid treatment. So it is very starting with a low base. There is an emphasis to invest in it, but there's always more we can do, and we're really excited. There's more scholarships coming into the sector to actually train and develop people. So it's growing very well, but there's more work to be done, and we're looking forward to seeing it.
Do you think there is a risk that if we are handing out these diversions to say 26,000 people, that's a lot of extra people that would be given a diversion? Do they then get lost in the system though if we don't have capacity on the back end to be supporting them?
I should hope not. And I would imagine that this would operate as a triage system. So first call is to assess that person as to what level of assistance they might need or what level of education they might need. I think we are equipped to do that. Yes, we may need more we do need more investment in our alcohol and other drug sector. But think of the funds that will be saved by taking this option instead of the criminal option that we do now.
Fiona, how does this work in other jurisdictions? So Portugal introduced it in the early 2000s. What happens in Portugal?
Yeah. Our death by overdose, accidental death by overdose in Victoria far exceeds our road toll. That is not the case in Portugal. They have a very low overdose rate. So this will save lives, and we have seen that evidence in Portugal. When they did this over 20 years ago, we saw far more people going into treatment. People are still using drugs in Portugal, but they're doing it more safely. And I think most importantly, they're doing it at an older age. This has changed the time that people use drugs, and that is crucial to ensuring that they don't have problematic use.
Both major parties have indicated that they're not for turning on this issue. Generally with these kinds of issues, change has to come from within. Are you talking to individuals in the major parties, and are there people who are sympathetic to your views?
Yes, I am I'm having some very interesting and I'd say positive conversations. Look, I think most people privately understand that if this was their child, if this was their brother, if this was their father, they would want a health intervention, not a criminal one. They understand it, they understand the evidence, they understand this is the right way. Now, if we look at other measures that we have pushed through this House, like safe access zones, supervised injecting room, voluntary assisted dying, we started from a position where no one wanted to support it to a position where everyone supports it.
What do you think is motivating the major parties' positions on this?
I think they're motivating each other. You know, no one wants to have a law and order election, or maybe they do. So they are hoping that they can wedge each other. This needs bipartisan support. That is what we've seen in other jurisdictions, like Portugal, for example. There was bipartisan support. Everyone understood that this was a sensible and reasonable measure, that this made sense economically, morally it made sense, and certainly it makes sense to save Victorians' lives.
So where you're at right now with the numbers, where do you think you stand, and are you willing to sort of hold off and maybe let people come around a bit longer, or?
I've got 2 weeks to change this. But when I've got people like the unions, when we've got people like Baden being able to tell us this, when I've got people like the Royal College of GPs saying this has to change, the Alliance of Lawyers saying this has to change, we will see more and more people coming out supporting this really important change. I think it will be hard for both parties to ignore that, and it will be very difficult for them to ignore the calls from the community for change.
Fiona, just while you're there, what's your stance or view on the housing tax that the Treasurer announced on Friday, the social bill? Premier this morning that mainly moved in Parliament. What would your stance be in any detail?
I chaired the homelessness inquiry, and I am brutally aware about the housing crisis that we have in Victoria, that every night tens of thousands of people have unstable housing. We recommended that there be inclusionary zoning, and this was supported by a large number of people, stakeholders in Victoria. So this levy does go towards that. I haven't seen the detail of it, so I'll hold my decision until we see the detail, until we see what will be presented to us in Parliament.
Have you told the government that you weren't guaranteed to support it?
I haven't been asked.
Do you know if they've been doing consultation about the cost measures?
I don't think, no, I'm not aware. I'm I'm not aware. I'm certainly aware of I've got the glossy brochures about this levy, but I certainly haven't seen the detail of it.
They haven't told you it's been pulled. Sorry,
Hey.
they haven't told you it's been pulled.
No, they haven't told me it's been pulled. Yeah, no, probably above my pay grade, and you know, I don't get invited to cabinet at all, ever, even on my birthday.